Welcome to the Ricky Matthews Show from the Citizens Bank Studio. Hope you're having a great day as we continue to celebrate all of the amazing people across the state of Mississippi who are working so hard in the trenches to make this such a great place to live, work, and play. You know, I often will do a review of the string of wonderful shows we've had over the past week, but I want to kind of zero your attention into a conversation I had with Jordan Doron here in coastal Mississippi, who's worked with John Carter on the Carter's Champion effort for a number of years, and he also has a podcast here in coastal Mississippi. But we've known each other for a good long time, mostly through social media. But finally, was able to get Jordan on the show, and I think you'll find it very interesting. You can go to SuperTalk Mississippi Gulf Coast Facebook page, or to the Ricky Matthews Show Facebook page, or to your favorite podcast and listen. Had a great conversation with Tim Keller, who's long time, first of all, fourth generation Hancock County and political and community leader for a number of years. Just terrific discussion with him and so many others. And I really want to thank you for the feedback. You know, if there's one thing that's true that I could say literally on every show, and certainly on my outdoor show on Monday, is something I really focus on, is the connection that Mississippi has to the outdoors. Here in coastal Mississippi, we have so many ways that we are connected. I mean, we're so lucky to be here. And one of the things I've done over the years is I capture quotes, famous, like one-line quotes from famous people about what they say about the outdoors. And I pulled it up this morning, and I just want to share it with you. It's just like really quick one-liners, but you'll recognize who said it. And every single one of these applies to Mississippi. The first one's from John Muir, and he said, "In every walk with nature, one receives far more than he seeks." Isn't that true? When we go, if you just go sit on the beach in Biloxi or Gulfport or any other of the coastal cities and look south, isn't it true that we receive more than we're seeking in that moment? You could be anywhere in any of the woods across Mississippi and still feel that same way. Henry David Thoreau once said, "I took a walk in the woods and came out taller than the trees." Isn't that beautiful? Ralph Waldo Emerson, "The creation of 1,000 forests is with one acorn." With one acorn. By the way, one of my grandkids' most popular thing to do this time of year is we just go out in the front yard and we have these small Ziploc bags and we write their names on them, and they gather acorns. They just love doing that. And even if they don't have Ziploc bags, when they get out of their car, by the time they get to the front door, my grandson Liam, who is 3, he will have had 5 or 6 acorns in his pocket before he gets to the front door. I love that. Aren't kids amazing? Oh, I could continue to read so many to you. Robert Frost, "In 3 words, I can sum up everything I've learned about life. It goes on." Think about that. Nature is an amazingly resilient thing. Bill Bryson once said that outdoors is a place where we can find our true selves. Oh, I got 100 others. When I see them, I gather them, I put them over here in my notebook, and I recall that. Listen, I've had the pleasure over the last several years of working with a group of wonderful leaders in in Mississippi, who we call ourselves the Wildlife Group. And we've come together on a number of different topics, including the Outdoor Stewardship Trust Fund that we're so thrilled to have today. But I'm often reminded about organizations like the Nature Conservancy and the role that they're playing to help us stay in a position. I call Mississippi the capital of the outdoors in America. I say that every single week on my outdoor show. But the role that the Nature Conservancy plays in that effort, I don't think it can be overstated. They're extremely important. There's so many great examples. And I'm thrilled to have the new state director of the Nature Conservancy with us today. His name is Scott Lemmons, and I look forward to getting to know him better. Scott, how you doing this morning?
Doing good. Glad to be here.
I saw you nodding as I was reading those quotes. But there's something about, I'm telling you, man, it doesn't matter if you're some of the most famous artists and some of the most famous writers and poets, just average people. We all have a connection with this sense of place, don't we?
We absolutely do.
And I know you could relate to that. Hey, Scott, so tell me a little bit about yourself. Where do you come from?
So my family is basically North Mississippi, right on the Tennessee state line. My family is originally from Benton County, in the northern part of the state. I was a forestry major at Mississippi State University, and I spent the first 10 years of my career working in the working for USDA Wildlife Services, basically working with human-wildlife conflicts between agriculture and public health and safety. The majority of my work was in the Delta region during that 10-year time frame. And going almost 11 years ago, I found out about the position for the director of freshwater programs at the Nature Conservancy, and I made that change almost 11 years ago, and it's been one of the most rewarding things. It has been the most rewarding thing I've ever done in my life.
Don't you love the Mississippi Delta?
Absolutely love it. Love it.
Yeah, I have. I spent a lot of time up there. I have a second home there, and lease a bunch of farms and have friends that are up there, and they own land up there, and we've sort of amassed a pretty good amount of land, and we love to hunt. But to be honest with you, man, to me it's not about the hunting. It's about the time in the outdoors and the preparation and all the projects that you have to do, the limitless number of projects. It's about the culture and the food and understanding, these wonderful people that make up the Mississippi Delta and how they work together in mostly harmonious ways, and getting to know the farming community and what they contribute to the world. The stories are endless, but there's a lot to learn about the Mississippi Delta, isn't there?
There absolutely is. And, like you're saying, it's not all about, how many fish you catch or, how many ducks or deer you kill. For me, it's getting out there and seeing the sunrise and the sunset and being able to, get away from your troubles and just being able to get out there and reset and, appreciate, what we've been provided with.
Well, first of all, let me real quickly congratulate you on being named state director. As you pointed out, joining the Nature Conservancy some little over 10 years ago was a great move for you. And you've seen a lot in that short period, that amount of time. But what it's done is give you the opportunity to have a great appreciation for the role that Nature Conservancy is playing in Mississippi. And it's about connecting leaders and people. Obviously, it's about raising money, but it's also about managing some important projects. The Nature Conservancy really hits on a bunch of different cylinders, doesn't it?
We do. We have our freshwater program, our forest program, and our coastal marine program. And in addition to that, we work with both federal and state partners to acquire, restore, and enhance properties across the state to help protect priority ecosystems.
I thought that the Loch Levin project is that you were involved in is a great example of what the Nature Conservancy can pull off. Can you think of a better one?
That's going to be a hard one to top. That's the largest floodplain reconnection project on the lower Mississippi River, south of Cairo, Illinois. And the first time that landowner reached out to me was back in 2016. And I went out to the property. I saw the infrastructure that they currently had, which was basically no means to manage water levels on this property. And I saw the conservation benefits. And I said, I don't know how I'm going to pull this off, but I've got to find a way to do it. And it took 15 different partners, whether it be state, federal, private foundations, things of that nature. And as of 2019, 2020, we began construction. And here we are today with a 6,000-acre floodplain reconnection project in Wilkinson County, Mississippi. You have multiple conservation benefits. You got fish, shallow water spawning opportunities for freshwater fish. We sampled 28 species of fish utilizing the floodplain in Loch Levin the very year after we completed the project. And that was, young of the year that had spawned within the floodplain. And those fish were moving back through my water control structure back out into the river. We're providing seasonal flooding for bottomland hardwood forest. And it's, being in the Delta, bottomland hardwoods require seasonal flood pulse to help manage their growth rates. Providing for waterfowl habitat, wading bird habitat, shorebird habitat, And one very important aspect is improved water quality in the lower Mississippi River system. So, the water comes through my water control structure and into the floodplain on Loch Levin. And the way we utilize floodplains to improve water quality, when the flow of water slows down, heavy sediments and nitrates fall out of your water column and they're deposited on the floodplain. So when the river recedes and the water flows back out of Loch Levin and into the Mississippi River system, you have a much cleaner water, because you've removed sediments and nitrates from the water column, and that's flowing down the Mississippi River into the Gulf of Mexico and help improving, the health of our Gulf and reducing Gulf hypoxia. So, looking at it from the big picture, the work that we do in the Delta directly impacts the Gulf Coast.
What a project. Of course, we know a lot about that because of our learning since the Bonnie Carey Spillway has been open so many times and threatened the Mississippi Sound. This is obviously an important part of the conversation. Hey, when we get back on the other side, we'll continue to talk about the Nature Conservancy with State Director Scott Lemmons. We'll see you after this. Welcome back to the Ricky Matthews Show from the Citizens Bank Studio. The Nature Conservancy has done incredibly important work all across Mississippi. And some people might think of them as an organization that helps purchase land, maybe when someone wants to establish a trust and all of that. And maybe at one point that might have been all they did. I don't know. Scott can help us understand that. But over the years, they've morphed. And this is what happens when you develop all these important relationships and see opportunities in the public domain to create wonderful, wonderful projects like the one we were just talking about. But, it is interesting to see the evolution of the Nature Conservancy over the many years, isn't it, Scott?
It really is. We started out, at least in Mississippi, our first large-scale purchase was from the Pascagoula Hardwood Company in the late 70s, early 80s, and that's what is, present day, the Pascagoula Wildlife Management Area. And, we've worked with the state and federal partners over the years to acquire properties and put those properties under conservation easement, or what we refer to as permanent protection. For example, Dahomey National Wildlife Refuge in the Mississippi Delta in Bolivar County was a TNC acquisition. And, most recently, the Phil Bryant Wildlife Management Area in Issaquah County we helped acquire a portion of that property for the state as well. So
yeah, I know that on the Phil Bryant, the Nature Conservancy, just from a leadership point of view and bringing people together and just kind of keeping the focus on it, because it took a lot of partners to pull that off. But Nature Conservancy played a huge role in that. And then you mentioned, of course, the Pascagoula River. That's something that it's there, and I often tell people, if you're not fully aware of the importance of this largest undammed waterway in the continental United States, to go to Google Earth and go to Pascagoula River and see this incredible watershed that is there. I mean, it's a national treasure, isn't it?
It absolutely is. It's a beautiful river system. I've been fortunate enough to have the opportunity to spend a lot of time on the Pascagoula in the last 10, 11 years, and it truly is a treasure we have right here in the state.
What I remember about Alex Littlejohn, who was in the position before you, is that he spent a lot of time in the car, driving around, meeting with people, talking to people. Alex knew people in every corner of this state. I'm assuming that's sort of your world these days as well.
It is. We cover all 82 counties in the state. So, I can be on the Gulf Coast one day, I can be in the Delta the next, and all the way up in Corinth or on the Tennessee state line the next day. It's we cover a lot of ground, but we make a lot of partners, meet a lot of good people, and utilize those relationships to develop our conservation efforts.
Yeah, I have someone on the coast, Todd Trenchard, who is the executive director for the Baco Foundation of South Mississippi. And he often says, and they raise a lot of money for sure, and they fill lots of gaps that other nonprofits can't afford to fill. So they have a great role that they play here in coastal Mississippi. But he says his number one goal is not necessarily to raise money. That's sort of a byproduct of what he's doing. What his goal is to bring leaders together, and by introducing them to one another and by bringing people together, that those conversations and those relationships, as they evolve, amazing things happen. And the Nature Conservancy has been great at doing that over a lot of years, hasn't it?
Absolutely, and especially on these large scale conservation projects, that's something that I can't emphasize enough. No one entity can pull off these large scale projects by themselves. It takes partnerships, it takes team building between TNC, other NGOs, state partners, federal partners, private partners, government relations. You just have to make those relationships and bring the right people to the table and formulate a plan moving forward. And that's how you're able to successfully and repeatedly implement large-scale conservation across many, many landscapes here in the state.
So, like when you got up this morning, I'm always curious about this. What's the priority list that you have in your head
for today?
Yes.
Oh goodness. It's extensive, from administrative duties to reaching out to partners on projects that we're working on in the Delta. I've got to reach out to my team down on the Gulf Coast as well. We're doing some great oyster reef restoration down in the Bay St. Louis area. And, you go from there to reaching out to philanthropy staff and figuring out where our next meetings are as far as fundraising efforts, grants, proposals, things of that nature. So it's a very diverse set of duties from, delivering the conservation on the ground to administratively to the fundraising effort. Just have to be able to balance all of it.
Yeah, it's I know that it's nonstop. That's for sure. Did you know from the beginning that you wanted to be in this kind of line of work?
No, I did not. Actually, I didn't go back to Mississippi State till I was 23 years old because what I did learn during that time was everything I did not want to do for a living. And, when I went and was enrolled in the College of Forest Resources, got into the forestry program, and I just kind of, as luck would have it, fell backwards into my first career at USDA Wildlife Services. And, I gained a lot of experience there in that 10-year period. And, when I came to the Nature Conservancy, my strong point was freshwater and wetland ecosystems, because that was kind of my focus at USDA when I was working in the Delta. So all I can say is the good Lord's has blessed me and has pointed me in the right direction.
Yeah, my story's similar. I became a paramedic and was in pre-med and kind of learned early on that's really not what I wanted to do, and went on to get an MBA, and the rest is history. But I think it's sometimes good to find out what you don't want to do early in life, and I think a lot of people fit in that category. But when you must be the kind of guy that doesn't want to be stuck behind a desk somewhere. You want to be out seeing, getting your hands dirty.
Oh yeah, and I contract out a lot of the work on the projects that we do, but I can't stand it if I see a piece of equipment sitting still. I'm going to jump up on it and run the machine or whatever. But yeah, I have to be out and about. A large portion of my duties now are administrative, and I'm in the office quite a bit more. But I am fortunate that I'm in the vehicle at least several times a day, and I'm out interacting and doing what we can to raise funding and implement conservation projects elsewhere. But you're absolutely right. I've got to be out and about. I got to be on the move.
What's always interested me about the Nature Conservancy is that the goals that you guys set are often not small. They're usually big.
They are.
That involve a lot of money. I mean, there's nothing that's too big for you guys to envision, is there?
It's really not. And, looking at TNC's global 2030 goals, they're absolutely incredible. And, I ask myself all the time, how are we going to do this? But, through partnerships and relationships, we always find a way to make it happen. How in the world are we going to help the state acquire 18,000 acres? And, 2 years later, the Phil Bryant Wildlife Management Area is a reality. It was the same way when I began that project down in Loch Levin. What's a dream one day with enough partnerships, enough groundwork, enough fundraising efforts, you can make it a reality. And to be able to see those tangible results immediately, and you're able to see the conservation that you're putting on the ground and see immediate results. I mean, it's a feeling I just can't describe. It's extremely rewarding.
So if you were given a message in the short time we have left of people who may own property in areas that we want to protect, and they're not sure what to do with their land or how to handle their trust as it relates to that, what would be your advice to them?
Just reach out to us. You know, we will take anyone's phone call at any time. Each individual project we take on a case-by-case basis. If it's not the best opportunity for the Nature Conservancy, you know, I might be able to point you to USDA or, you know, maybe Ducks Unlimited, one of our other partners, maybe Wildlife Mississippi. But we absolutely welcome any and all outreach from the public, anyone.
Yeah, I think Ed Penny and James Cumming, Ed Ducks Unlimited, James Cumming is at Wildlife Mississippi and the Nature Conservancy. All you guys are working together, and you're helping each other dream big. You're helping each other. And the other thing I love about the relationship that your organizations have is that when it's time to work together around an important issue, again, like the Outdoor Stewardship Trust Fund, you come to the forefront and work together, and are able to rally the troops, so to speak, and we can make great things happen. And that's the cool thing about the conservation community in Mississippi, isn't it?
It is. And, you know, at the end of the day, the goal is to implement large-scale conservation across the state. And we have to work together to be able to do that on a large scale. And our partners are great. They absolutely are. We all work together. We all show up at the state legislature. You know, we all work together, whether it's state, federal, you know, universities, NGOs. We all partner. We all come together, and we work for the better good of conservation.
Well, it's been a pleasure, Steve. John Burroughs said, "I go into nature to be soothed and healed, and to have my senses put in order." And that's what it's all about. Hey, it's been a pleasure to spend some time with you, Scott Lemmons.
Thank you very much. I greatly appreciate it.
It's great. I enjoy always talking about the Nature Conservancy. When we come back, we have Hunter Dawkins from the Gazebo Gazette joining us.